The photograph slipped from Elara's trembling hands and shattered against the marble floor. She froze, her heart hammering against her ribs as footsteps echoed behind her. Alexander Knight stood in the doorway of his private office, his steel-gray eyes locked on the broken frame at her feet. For 6 months, Elara had been invisible to him. Not anymore. He crossed the room in 3 strides, dropping to his knees beside the shattered glass. His hands shook as he picked up the photo of a young woman with dark hair and green eyes. A woman who looked exactly like Elara. When Alexander finally looked up at her, his face had gone deathly pale. "Isabel," he whispered. Elara's voice caught in her throat. "I'm sorry, Mr. Knight. I was just dusting and I knocked it over. I'll replace the frame, I promise." But Alexander wasn't listening. He stared at Elara as if seeing a ghost, his jaw clenched tight. Then he did something he'd never done in the 6 months she'd cleaned his penthouse. He spoke directly to her. "What's your name?" "Elara Torres, sir." He stood slowly, still holding the photograph, his gaze never leaving her face. The silence stretched between them like a taut wire ready to snap. Finally, he placed the photo carefully on his desk and walked to the window overlooking the glittering Manhattan skyline. "Be here tomorrow morning at 8. We need to talk." Elara left the penthouse that night with dread pooling in her stomach. She needed this job. Her mother's medical bills were crushing her, and she was already working 3 jobs just to keep their heads above water. Getting fired would destroy everything. But when Elara arrived the next morning, Alexander wasn't angry. He was waiting for her in his living room, 2 cups of coffee on the table. He gestured for her to sit. Elara perched on the edge of the leather sofa, her muscles tense. Alexander studied her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle. He asked her questions. Where was she from? Did she have a family? What did she want from life? Elara answered cautiously, confused by this sudden attention from a man who'd looked through her like glass for half a year. Then he made an offer that changed everything. "I want you to be my personal assistant. The salary is 3 times what you're making now across all your jobs. You'll travel with me, attend meetings, and manage my schedule." Elara's mind reeled. This didn't make sense. She had no experience, no qualifications. "Why me?" Alexander's expression remained unreadable. "Because I need someone I can trust, someone who doesn't want anything from me." The lie sat heavy in the air between them, but Elara thought of her mother's mounting hospital bills. She thought of the experimental treatment the doctors had mentioned, the one their insurance wouldn't cover. She swallowed her doubts and accepted. If you're enjoying this story so far, hit that subscribe button. You won't believe where this goes next. The transformation happened overnight. One day Elara was scrubbing floors in a maid's uniform. Next, she was wearing designer clothes and sitting in first-class airplane seats. Alexander bought her an entire wardrobe, set her up in a luxury apartment near his office, and kept her by his side constantly. At first, Elara felt like an imposter in expensive heels and silk blouses. But she learned fast. She was smart, efficient, and unafraid to challenge Alexander when his decisions seemed cruel or short-sighted. Something she quickly discovered no one else in his orbit dared to do. But the strangeness of the situation haunted her. Alexander's assistant, Marcus, pulled her aside one afternoon and explained what Elara had already begun to suspect. 2 years ago, Alexander had been engaged to a woman named Isabel Laurent. She died in a car accident the night Alexander canceled their dinner plans to close a business deal. He'd never forgiven himself. Elara stared at the photo Marcus showed her on his phone. Isabel had the same dark hair, the same green eyes, the same delicate features. The resemblance was uncanny. That night, Elara confronted Alexander in his office. "I know why you hired me. I look like her." Alexander didn't deny it. He leaned back in his chair, exhaustion etched across his face. "You did, at first." "At first." He stood and moved to the window, his reflection ghostly in the glass. "Isabel was gentle, soft-spoken. She never questioned me, never challenged me. She made me feel powerful." He turned to face Elara. "You make me feel human." Elara's breath caught. "I'm not a replacement for your dead fiancé." I know, his voice was rough. That's what terrifies me. The admission hung between them, dangerous and electric. Elara knew she should walk away. This was her boss, a billionaire still in love with a ghost. But when Alexander looked at her like that, she felt seen for the first time in her life. Not invisible, not insignificant, seen. The weeks that followed blurred together. Late nights at the office where they talked about more than business. Shared meals where Alexander asked about her childhood, her dreams, her fears. Moments when their hands would brush and neither would pull away. Elara was falling for him, and that was a mistake. Victoria Ashford arrived like a storm in Louboutin heels. Alexander's former business partner and ex-girlfriend swept back from London with perfectly calculated timing. She was everything Elara wasn't. Old money, Ivy League educated, bred for this world of private jets and charity galas. Victoria took one look at Elara and knew exactly what she represented. A threat. She cornered Elara in the ladies' room at a corporate dinner. You know you're just a replacement, right? A ghost he's chasing because he can't let go. Victoria's smile was sharp as a blade. He'll never truly see you, darling. You'll always be Isabel's shadow. The words burrowed under Elara's skin like splinters. But worse was what came next. Victoria orchestrated a board meeting where she casually mentioned Elara's background. Our new assistant used to scrub Alexander's floors, didn't you, Elara? Such an inspiring rags-to-riches story. The room fell silent. Elara felt every eye on her, saw the smirks, heard the whispered judgments. Alexander's face went dark with fury, but the damage was done. Elara was exposed, humiliated, revealed as the imposter she'd always feared she was. She walked out of the conference room and kept walking. That night, Elara packed her designer clothes and returned to Alexander's penthouse one final time. She placed her company ID card on his desk. He appeared in the doorway, his expression devastated. Don't leave. Elara's voice shook with barely contained emotion. I can't do this anymore. I'm not Isabel. I'll never be her. You don't see me, Alexander. You see her ghost. You're wrong. Am I? Elara's eyes burned with unshed tears. You hired me because I looked like her. You dress me up, parade me around, keep me close. But I'm just a stand-in for the woman you really loved. Alexander moved toward her, and Elara saw something crack in his carefully controlled facade. You're right. At first, you reminded me of her. But Elara, these past months, you've made me feel alive in ways Isabel never did. How convenient to say that now. Isabel was my comfort zone. She never challenged me, never made me question myself. She let me be the cold, ruthless bastard everyone thinks I am. His voice dropped. You won't let me hide. You see through every wall I've built. You make me want to be better. That terrifies me because it's real and I don't know how to do real. He pulled a folder from his desk drawer. I've been working with specialists about your mother's condition. There's an experimental treatment in Switzerland. I want to fund it. Elara's hands trembled. Why? Because you shouldn't have to sacrifice everything for the people you love. I learned that lesson too late with Isabel. I won't make that mistake again. The gesture broke something inside Elara, but it wasn't enough. If this is real, if you truly see me and not her ghost, then let me go. Let me go, and if we're meant to find each other again, we will. Alexander's jaw tightened, but he nodded. If that's what you need. Elara left his penthouse with tears streaming down her face, unsure if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. 3 months crawled by like years. Elara's mother underwent the treatment Alexander had arranged, and it worked. She was in remission, growing stronger every day. Elara had used her savings to start a small cleaning company, one that paid fair wages and treated workers with dignity. But every night, she thought of Alexander. She wondered if he thought of her too. Alexander had retreated into his work, becoming more isolated than ever. Victoria had tried to rekindle their relationship, but he'd shut her down completely. He'd given his heart to someone, and he wasn't getting it back. Marcus called Elara one afternoon. He's miserable. I've never seen him like this. He won't eat, barely sleeps, he just works. Elara's heart ached, but she held firm. He needs to figure out who he is without me, without Isabel. We both do. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, Alexander walked into Elara's modest office. He wasn't wearing his usual tailored suit, just jeans and a sweater, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. I'm not here as Alexander Knight, CEO. I'm here as Alex, a man who fell in love with a remarkable woman who showed him what real strength looks like. Elara's breath caught. He continued, his voice steady but vulnerable. You were never a replacement. You were never invisible. You were the only person who made me want to live again instead of just existing. He pulled out a velvet box, but instead of opening it, he set it on her desk. I'm not asking you for anything today. I'm just telling you the truth. I love you. Not because you remind me of someone, because you're Elara Torres and you're extraordinary. Elara's walls crumbled. I was so afraid of being second best. You could never be second to anyone. You're the first person who made me believe I deserved happiness again. She reached across the desk and took his hand. I love you too, the real you, not the Ice King, not the ruthless CEO, just Alex. Their kiss was soft and real and earned. Alexander had one more surprise. He'd created the Torres Foundation, funded with half his personal fortune, dedicated to helping families struggling with medical debt. Named after Elara's mother. Named after the woman who'd taught him that real wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts. 1 year later, Elara and Alexander stood together at their wedding, surrounded by the people they loved. Elara's mother, healthy and radiant, gave a tearful speech. Marcus served as best man, dabbing at his eyes. In Alexander's study, the photograph of Isabel sat in a beautiful memorial garden he'd created. Not forgotten, but honored. A chapter closed with love and respect. As Elara and Alexander danced under string lights, he whispered in her ear, "Thank you for teaching me that letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means making room for something even more beautiful." Elara had spent years being invisible, unnoticed, overlooked, until she met a man who needed to learn how to truly see. And in teaching him, she discovered her own worth. She was never a replacement. She was never second best. She was always meant to be first. The greatest love stories aren't about finding someone perfect. They're about two broken people who choose to heal each other, who see past the ghosts and the walls to the real, flawed, beautiful human underneath. Elara Torres was a maid who became a billionaire's obsession. But more than that, she became the love of his life. The real one. The only one that mattered. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think Elara and Alexander's future looks like. And subscribe for more romantic stories that will make you believe in love again. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.